Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a Diablo 3 patch 2.6.8 Season 20 Wizard Build Guide. This is a Hydra build using the Typhon's Veil Wizard set. And in this video, we'll cover the gear and skills and tactics that you want to rock this build. In the video description below, you'll be able to find a link to the D3 planner, which you can use as a quick reference to gear and skills. I will also try to keep that link up to date with the latest information on what the best gear and skills are, as this is an emerging build. But let's begin with an overview of the new set, the Typhon's Veil. The two-piece bonus doubles the duration of Hydras and increases the number of heads on multi-headed Hydras by 2. Now, all Hydras are multi-headed except for one rune, the Mammoth Hydra. So this is a set for all but the Mammoth Hydra, because historically the Mammoth Hydra was really the best Hydra variant, so this opens up our options. Then the 4-piece bonus, damage taken is reduced by 8% for each Hydra head alive. Each time you take damage, a head dies. Important to note is that this was recorded on the test server, but we do know that in the live version of the patch, you cannot lose more than one head every 2 seconds. So there's an internal cooldown, meaning that it's not terribly punishing to get hit and lose heads. So, for instance, we'll be able to have 2 Hydras alive at any given time. Each has 5 heads. That's going to be 80% damage reduction, and we will not be able to lose more than 1 head per 2 seconds. Then for the 6-piece bonus, Hydras deal 1,300% increased damage for each Hydra head alive. It says 1,000 here, but in the live version of the patch, it will be 1,300. So in short, this is a set in which you want to maintain your Hydras. You're going to be constantly spawning the Hydras. That is, whenever you lose a Hydra head, you want to ensure you always have 10 Hydra heads spawned. So now let's look at the supporting items that will help this build, starting with Tasker and Theo. Increase attack speed of your pets by 50%. Hydras are classified as pets. This will give them more damage. We'll need the Magistrate Helm. Your Hydras now periodically cast Frost Nova and deal up to 600% increased damage. We're going to need a Ring of Royal Grandeur in order to make room for that Tasker and Theo. This allows us to have only 5 set items equipped and still benefit from the 6-piece bonus. A key defensive item will be the Halo of Karini. You take 80% less damage for 5 seconds after your storm armor electrocutes an enemy more than 15 yards away. Next, we're going to want a Serpent Sparker. This item is critical. It allows us to double the number of Hydras we can have and adds another multiplier on their damage. Then we'll want the combination of the Death Wish and the Etched Sigil. With this offhand, while channeling Arcane Torrent, Disintegrate, or Ray of Frost for at least 1 second, the damage of your arcane power spenders is increased, and you also cast one of your other damaging arcane spenders every second. Hydra is an arcane power spender, so we're going to want to buff our Hydra damage with this, and we'll also be using it to trigger our Black Hole skill. As for the Death Wish, while channeling Arcane Torrent, Disintegrate, or Ray of Frost for at least 1 second, all damage is increased. So this is another channeling build, but we are channeling in order to buff our Hydras. Then to round things out, we've got Ashnagar's Blood Bracer. This increases the potency of our shields to make us tankier. Now, there were reports of a bug on PTR between the interaction of Absorb Shields and the 4-piece bonus of this set. I'm going to work under the assumption that this will be fixed in the live version of the patch. So assuming that this is fixed, then Ashnagar's will be the ideal piece of gear to take here to give us more damage mitigation. For further damage mitigation, you can go with a Unity, assuming you're playing solo. You equip one on yourself, one on your follower, and then you have to put the token that renders your follower invulnerable. If you instead want to opt for more damage, you can go with a convention of elements. Then for our amulet, we can squeeze out quite a bit more damage with a Squirt's Necklace. While not taking damage, damage dealt is increased by up to 100%, and damage taken is increased by up to 50. And important to note is that any damage that's hitting one of your absorb shields does not factor into squirts. That is to say, as long as you're not taking actual damage to your health, you will not lose the squirts bonus. Then lastly, to squeeze out more damage, a Witching Hour in the belt slot. For our legendary gems, we're going to want a Bane of the Trapped, all around one of the best legendary gems in the game. Big damage multiplier that applies versus crowd controlled enemies. Our Hydras will be casting Frost Nova, enemies will be crowd controlled, we'll be crowd controlling them as well via Black Hole, so this buff should be always applying. Then of course we need the Enforcer gem. This is the pet gem, this is a pet build. This is going to greatly increase the damage that our Hydras deal. And then lastly, we're going to use a Taeguk because we're working in channeling skills into this build, and this will give us increased damage and toughness while channeling. As for regular gems, of course, an emerald in the weapon for more crit damage. For the helm, you can go with a diamond for a bit of cooldown, though cooldown isn't terribly important for this build. You could always go with a topaz for more resource cost reduction. That's if you find you're burning through your resource too fast. Or you can always go with an amethyst for more health. Then for the chest and pants, if you want more damage, you go with topazes. If you want more toughness, you can go with either rubies or emeralds to give you armor. The wizard is an intelligence-based class. Intelligence natively gives all resist. What wizards lack is armor, and strength and dexterity give armor. Now we'll circle back to take a look at exactly what we want on every piece of gear, but first let's go over the skills. Of course we're gonna want Hydra. For our rune, we'll take Frost Hydra in order to deal our damage in a cone, an area that should affect multiple enemies. Then, because we're taking the Halo of Karini, we're going to want Storm Armor. This is going to periodically shock enemies, which will give us a defensive buff thanks to the Halo of Karini. We're going to take the power of the Storm rune to give us more resource cost reduction in order to better be able to keep up our channeling skills. And the channeling skill we'll choose to go with is Arcane Torrent Flame Ward. This is not a source of damage. We just had to pick a channeling skill in order to benefit from our legendary weapon and offhand. We specifically are opting for Flame Ward because you take 15% less damage from attacks while channeling. Every second you channel increases this amount by 5%, up to a maximum total of 25% damage reduction. So we keep away from enemies, we channel, we build up our defensive stacks. Then as a buff, we're taking Magic Weapon Deflection. Magic Weapon gives us more damage, Deflection gives us an Absorb Shield. When we perform an attack, i.e. while channeling, we're going to gain a protective shield for 3 seconds that absorbs 4% of your life in damage. This is going to get doubled by our Ashnagar's Blood Bracer. Then we're taking Black Hole Absolute Zero. This is another reason that we're going for the Frost Hydra. Why? Black Hole is going to group enemies. Again, not a significant damage source, but very good grouping skill. The Absolute Zero rune makes each enemy hit increase the damage of your cold spells by 3% for 10 seconds. So you really want to aim and hit a whole chunk of enemies to turbo buff our Frost Hydra. Black Hole will be incidentally activating while we are channeling. Then lastly, we're going to take Teleport Safe Passage. For 5 seconds after teleporting, you take 25% less damage, and teleport will allow us to get out of danger. Going over our passives, we'll be taking Illusionist, which will pair well with Teleport. When you take more than 15% of your max life in damage within 1 second, the cooldown on Teleport is reset. And after using Teleport, your move speed is increased by 30% for 3 seconds. So this is why we don't really need to care about cooldown, because when we are in danger and really need to use a teleport, we'll be able to do so thanks to the cooldown getting reset. We'll also be taking Unwavering Will. Standing still for 1.5 seconds increases the following attributes: Armor, All Resist, and Damage. So we're gaining more toughness and more damage when we are standing in place. This pairs tremendously well with our Taeguk. This will make us deal more damage to enemies within 15 yards of us. So we're going to want to try to position ourselves close enough to enemies to gain our damage buff when it is safe to do so. Next, we're going to take Galvanizing Ward to gain yet another protective absorb shield that'll get buffed by Ashnagar's, and that'll stop us from taking any real damage and losing our Squirt's buff. So how does this all come together? We're going to want to be maintaining, again, our 10 Hydras, our 10 Hydra heads at all times. So before you engage an enemy, make sure you have your full defensive buff of the 10 Hydra heads. Then you can teleport or move into the enemies, get them within 15 yards of you, start your channeling, and then start repositioning those Hydras to be closer to the enemies that you want to kill. If you're in danger and need to withdraw, your teleport should be resetting. Now, if there's one passive you'd want to sacrifice here in order to gain the Unstable Anomaly extra life, I would go with Unwavering Will. Now let's go back to gear and exactly what you want on every piece. For your shoulders, Intelligence, Vitality, Hydra damage, and area damage. For your helm, Intelligence, Vitality, crit chance. For your amulet, crit, and cold damage. For your bracers, crit chance, crit damage, area damage, and then if you have enough intelligence from Paragon points, that's when you can start rolling intelligence off gear in order to gain other beneficial stats. Attack speed here would translate into more damage for our pets. On our chest, Intelligence, Vitality, Hydra damage. On our bracer, cold damage, Intelligence, Vitality, life per hit. Our Witching Hour, Intelligence, Vitality, attack speed, crit damage. Pants, Intelligence, Vitality, armor. Boots, Intelligence, Vitality, all resistant armor. For our Halo of Karini, crit chance, crit damage, then either intelligence or area damage or raw damage. And on our Unity, crit chance, crit damage, elite damage. Then for weapons, percent damage, area damage, and then intelligence, or again, once you build up enough intel, you can go with attack speed instead. On our offhand, crit chance, Hydra damage, crits granting arcane power, could help us with maintaining enough resource, and then area damage. Then as for our Paragon points, you want to get your total move speed up to 25% and then dump everything into intelligence. That said, if you find yourself to be on the squishy side, you can shift some points into vitality. For offense, crit chance and crit damage, maintaining an overall 1-to-10 ratio between these two. Then attack speed, then cooldown. For defense, life, armor, all resist, life per second. And for utility, resource cost reduction, area damage, life per hit, gold find. And that's gonna wrap up this video. But as a reminder, refer to the D3 planner link in the video description for the most up-to-date information on what the best gear and skills and attributes on gear is. Also, stay tuned for other Diablo 3 guides. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. Check out these other videos and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more Diablo content.